Let's get it. This is Life's Essential Ingredients with Jeff and a Mike, where we hope to inform, inspire, and transform lives, one essential ingredient at a time. Welcome to the show. Listeners, we are back. Unfortunately, I'm missing the Mike, my Pacho. He is entertaining today out in Vegas, and so we miss him. But can't believe we are back. Season 5, episode 22 with Heather Colley coming from London, England. And if you're a new listener, first of all, just thanks for giving us a shot and tuning in. I don't know how it's happened, but we've been listened to in 112 countries and over like 1,050 cities now. So thank you for tuning in and helping slowly spread the word. And if you are new, this show is part of a nonprofit, and the nonprofit's called C4 Leaders. And we're the only nonprofit to utilize the pizza making process to create space for our companions to be seen, heard, and loved. We work with businesses, sports teams, hospitals, churches, anyone looking to rise together. We also write children's books, and then we use the most amazing handmade, hand-tossed sourdough pizza to bring out the best in each other. So if you're interested in checking us out in that space, you can go to c4leaders.org. But let's get into our guest. First place to find her is just through her website, heathercolleyauthor.com. So about our guest, Heather Colley is a PhD student in English literature at the University of Oxford, and that's Regents Park College. Her current research is focused on late 19th and early 20th century jazz and blues aesthetics in transatlantic modernist literature, with a particular emphasis on the impacts of musical forms and tropes on literary experimentation and cultural development. This is a mouthful for me. Heather completed her master's in modern and contemporary literature with distinction at St. Andrews, where she studied lyric and form in the work of mid-20th century African-American women novelists. She received her bachelor's in English and literature / creative writing and sociology at the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. Go Blue. Heather's writing won the Oxford Review of Books Short Fiction Prize, the Hopwood Award, and inclusion in the Desperate Literature Anthology. The Gilded Butterfly Effect is Heather's debut novel. Thanks for sharing your many gifts and creativity with the world, having the courage to take your gift and to put it on paper, and for being our guest on Life's Essential Ingredients. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I realize I should probably shorten my research description when I hear it read aloud like that.
It's impressive. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it was a mouthful to try and get those words enunciated in the correct way. But let's just start there before we even get into the thought of the day. Yeah, just tell the listeners a little bit about your research focus and why it's important for you to dedicate your life towards that. I don't even know what any of that really meant, which is why I was talking to my son-in-law. Mike and I started this podcast to help one person, and that one person has always been me. And I've really fallen in love, one, because I get to meet incredible people like you who are all the way in a whole nother country, and we get to share a little bit of space together. But two, to learn and grow. And this is a subject matter that I don't have any knowledge around. So I'm so excited to just have you share what is so passionate to you and to give me and the listeners some insight into that.
Yeah. In my mind, it's much simpler, I think, than that description that I definitely wrote when I was just starting it off and was trying to make it seem very complex. But basically, I look at 19th century poetry, and I look at poetry that has something to do with the music that was developing at the time. So around the late 19th century, especially in America, was ragtime, early blues, and very early jazz. So I look at poets who in some way engaged with that type of music and incorporated it structurally or thematically into their poems. And then I kind of look at the reverse as well. So I look at musicians at the time who were engaging with the poetry and in some way incorporating the lyric of the poetry into their music.
I love everything that you've said right there, because I think we can learn so much from history. And so,
Yes.
what is something that you've been researching and you perhaps made it like a connection to something that's going on now? Like, oh man, here we go again, and here's how this person felt about it, and man, it's a couple hundred years later, and we're still in that same space.
Yeah, well, I look at a few poets that I think are not typically studied, especially not in sort of high school classrooms or college classrooms. So I look at people like Paul Laurence Dunbar, and then also the kind of American greats like Longfellow. But I think it's still true that we overlook a lot of brilliant authors. And in my research, I find so many poems and so many songs that can be read as poems that are so beautiful and important, but you'd never know them. You wouldn't know the author, you wouldn't know the title of the poem because it's not a sort of element of common curriculum. And I think still today that can be true. We overlook really beautiful work, and I think that sort of thing should be elevated.
Mm, I love it. I love it. And that's, in a weird way, that's what we do with food, and
Mm,
pizza is just trying to help people get back to their roots and take
mm,
something that they're so familiar with and then kind of get out of their own way and search for a deeper meaning
yeah.
behind this thing called life. And there's certain things that I think are universal languages, and obviously food is one, and music and literature and poems are another. And yeah, it's just so cool. And just so you know, I'm listening to you, and when my head is down, I'm not looking at my phone, I'm taking notes. Yeah,
Okay. Oh, no, yeah.
because I'm always trying to learn and grow. But if you yeah, what's your favorite poem right now that speaks to you as a young person, navigating your way through this world and perhaps getting inspiration? But yeah, is there one poem that really resonates with you right now at this time of your life?
Yeah, I often think of Wordsworth's Song of Myself, which is it's more studied, and it's one of these poems that often appears in kind of college or graduate school English curriculums. It's a very long poem, so it would take like an hour or two to read one of these sort of epic poems. But it's about individuality and finding yourself and remaining true to yourself in what was his modern world. But I think it's still applicable, and I just love the imagery, and I think it's just a beautiful poem that can sort of speak to everyone. I find it to be very universal.
Mm. And who's it by again? I gotta look that up.
Wordsworth.
What's worth? Okay, very cool. So have you written poetry? Is that part of what you do? Or are you just more interested in novels?
I actually don't write poetry. I think it's probably for the best that I don't because I can separate out my like literary research for my PhD into poetry from my creative work. So I just don't think I'd be a very good poet.
So what's your goal with your PhD? Do you want to be a writer? Do you want to get in the academic space? Both, or yeah, what is the end in mind for you?
Well, I'd love to do both. I'd love to become a lecturer or a professor and continue to publish in my academic area. And I'd also love to keep writing. So I'd love to write my second book and get it out into the world. Neither of those things are especially lucrative, so I foresee a world where both of them might coexist.
Nice, nice. Well, I love you chasing your dreams, especially knowing that perhaps you can make enough money in education, and live a good life. But definitely, there's better things to get into if that's what your focus is on. But I love meeting young people that are like, hey, I have a different purpose and I really want to share. And it sounds like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but to inspire, a younger generation, so to say, of people to hopefully get the same excitement that you do out of, this research. And yeah, I'm pretty fired up to just know, again, and one thing that I just love about this show, I don't pay attention to the news. I really don't do social media. I'm kind of ignorant in all that space. I would rather just hear from the people that are out doing stuff,
Yeah.
and so getting to meet young people and old people on this show that are chasing their dreams still, just is so healthy for me. So yeah,
Oh,
thank
great.
you for sharing that. But let's get into the show a little bit. Um, it's called Life's Essential Ingredients, and I like to let the listeners know a little bit about what was your life like growing up, and you can take that any which way you want.
Yeah, I grew up in Westchester, New York, so about 45 minutes outside of Manhattan. I went to a pretty normal, like public American high school. I always loved reading. Some of my earliest memories are from reading picture books and children's books, and I remember that very distinctly. And then I was in high school and a teenager during the like Twilight,
Mm.
Divergent, Pretty Little Liars craze. So that was a really fun time to be like an emerging reader, especially a young girl, getting really into these books. So reading has always been with me. And then I started writing kind of in high school and really started to take it seriously in college. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I have two daughters, and my youngest was into all the Twilight stuff. And yeah, I
Okay.
won't
You are,
put you on
yeah.
the spot, but my kids are 27 and 29. I have a feeling you guys are somewhat in that same age
Yeah.
category.
I'm 27,
Yeah,
exactly as your youngest.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, at this point, you're busy. You're writing. You're studying full time. You're living in a couple different places. So you have a lot going on. Um, what what would you say are your life's essential ingredients that allow you to take all that you're doing and kind of be able to focus and do what you need to do? How do you do that?
Well, I think especially for writing, it can be really easy to get caught up in the difficulties. It's hard to get traditionally published, especially in literary fiction. It's a lot of rejection, it's a lot of criticism, and that can weigh you down. And I think over the years I've developed, I suppose, the things that are essential to my life to making sure that I have like a personhood outside of that, outside of writing, trying to become a successful writer, and then also academia, which is my family. Um, I love animals, so I foster cats and dogs as much
Mm,
as possible. They bring me a lot of joy. Um, I love running and walking. They just give me a lot of clarity, and I love music and reading. Uh, I'm pretty I'm pretty simple, to be honest, but those are the things that just bring me kind of like unadulterated pleasure and happiness apart from my work.
mm, mm. And the great things, I'm a retired nurse of
Oh,
33
great.
years. And yeah, I mean, finding that harmony to just
Mhm.
keep life simple. And the older I get, the more I realize the genius is in simplicity. The
Yeah.
world seems to be speeding up faster and faster with the influence of technology and the rate of change in that space. And if you're not careful, I mean, it's just keeping up with that in itself is a little bit stressful. And so finding that balance, and always good to hear you're sticking. Yeah, family love is always the answer for sure. Taking care of your body, and your mind and your spirit, which is you're doing with everything that you do. And love to hear about fostering animals. We're a big boxer family.
Oh, lovely.
um, and so we have our fourth boxer,
Oh,
second rescue. And I don't know if you're well, you probably are a football fan because you went to undergrad at University of Michigan, but it's an old school movie called Rudy.
okay.
This guy that played at Notre Dame, and so our dog, we named him Rudy, because he has real bad anxiety, and
Oh.
he's overcome that in the 4 months that we've had him. He came on Paxil, um,
Oh.
and nobody would take him, because he was just so, his anxiety, he would turn in on himself.
Oh.
And my wife and I went and saw him and met him, and he didn't give us a time of day. Stayed way, way, way far away. But I say, hey, that's our guy. You know,
Oh,
he has so much that he can teach us. And oh man, he's been the best thing. A lot of work and a challenge because I've never had a dog with anxiety like that. But he's come so far. And
oh,
um, one of the cool things when I was working as a nurse at Sacramento City College, the other nurse, Wendy, started pet therapy
oh,
and
wow.
was pretty incredible on our campus, the impact that it had on the students
Yeah.
and just cutting down some of their anxiety and stress and everything else that they had going on in their life. Um,
Yeah, that's wonderful. It's so nice to hear about rescue stories, and giving animals that are not chosen like a chance. I just think that that's so lovely. And we're we're not in a place yet to adopt, so we're trying to foster just to give these animals like some reprieve from the shelter. But yeah, I just absolutely love being around all types of animals as well.
yeah, yeah. No, it's I guess we got a tiny little bit of time. Our nonprofit, so we do team building and leadership development, and we use pizza. And I
Right.
just got back from LA doing a program for a hospital because I told you I'm a nurse and it's a pretty good fit to speak to their leadership team. And anyways, long story short, I started my opening slide was a pizza, but the second slide was my dog Rudy
Oh,
in two different pictures of him. And the title of the presentation I was working with this group on was "Developing Trust to Rise Together."
mm,
And this guy, yeah, he's just come so far in the 4 months that we've had him. And
yeah.
crazy what pets can do for you, you know. And just like
Yes.
we're talking about music and poetry and literature, you know, and food, and animals and humans give us the same thing, that just let us know we're alive and to continue to treat each other with respect and love and compassion. But let's get in. I'm talking way too much. So you're in England.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to go over there for your PhD?
I suppose it's sort of a mix of things. Oxford is a great place to study English. They have an amazing English faculty, so that was really important to me in choosing where to do my PhD. I spent a year in Oxford in undergrad. I spent my junior year there, where I met my current fiance. So that was sort of a part of it. I built a life here during that time, and always kind of wanted to come back. I'm also half British, so I came to England a lot as a kid and always felt an affinity for England and for being here. So I think all of those things kind of just work together, and I've been here for 5 years now.
Man, yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. When are you getting married?
June of next year, June 2026.
Ah, congrats. Yeah,
Thank
my
you.
oldest daughter got married last September, and yeah, love.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And now she's pregnant and having a
Oh,
baby in March, and
oh my God.
so
Congratulations.
yeah, actually, you can maybe see that, but
Oh,
they told us and gave us these mugs.
lovely.
Yeah, is how we found out. So yeah, no, life is good. I'm glad you have love, and it
Yes.
makes everything. I wouldn't say easier, but just tastes a little bit better, especially when you have that person that
Yeah.
you can really count on.
Yeah.
But all right, hey, so let's get into your book a little bit. And thanks for having your people send it out.
Yes.
I have it right here. Love the cover, and I think that's the first thing. Actually, the second thing I want to talk about. First one was, how good did it feel when you got your author's proof in your hand, and what are a couple words that come to mind of how that felt for you?
Yeah, it felt wonderful. I mean, I wrote the book probably 8 years ago, so it's been a long process getting it out into the world and getting a book deal on it and selling it to the publisher. So it felt like just a really wonderful kind of conclusion to something that I've been working on for quite a while. And I also just felt relief, like when you've been working on something for that long, it's great to just kind of tie it up and move on in a lot of ways. I'm so happy that it's in the world, but I'm happy as well that it's finished and it's published and I can kind of move on to the next thing. But yeah, it's a wonderful feeling just seeing your finished copies.
Yeah, yeah, and really powerful cover. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think I know what gilded means, but go over the title a little bit for me and explain the kind of deeper meaning behind it.
The title comes from King Lear, Shakespeare's King Lear. So it comes from a quote in the last act. And I think the quote is something like, "We will all laugh at gilded butterflies." And that quote has always resonated with me from the first time I read the play. But I also think the image is really applicable to the characters in the book. To me, it kind of represents these beautiful, free creatures, the butterfly, that are gilded in this veneer of gold, implying a kind of fakeness or an ornamentation that restricts them in some way. And I think that's a really, really apt metaphor for the girls in the book.
Mm, mm, yeah. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that part because yeah, I flipped through the book and there's interesting your characters, yeah, and so much that I want to talk about
Yeah.
in that. But yeah, that word fakeness and then kind of restricts and yeah, so it's just a cool kind of title, cool cover
Thank you.
that definitely captures the person looking at it of like, yeah, what's this really about? I mean, for me, it makes you want to open it up and be like, this is a little bit um, interesting just title. But let's get in just being a nurse. Um, one of the things that jumped out at me in the book was just, and I'm older, and not that there weren't a lot of drugs. I went to University of San Francisco, but I was playing basketball. Mike and I were college roommates, and not that it matters to you, but I'm 6'8". Mike is 6'7". We both
Okay.
played basketball there, and you couldn't use drugs if you wanted to. You were drug tested all the time, but there was all kind of stuff going on. But that was one thing that for sure jumped out of me, and I'll come back to how I started this comment. Being a nurse and working on a college campus and knowing that there was not the mental health resources, they're finally getting it better up in Los Rios, where that's the district. But there's such a huge gap, even when
Yeah.
I was there, and being a nurse, I don't have the background to counsel students. You can do your basic, but you need to know what you don't know. And obviously you were on a big campus with 50,000 students, University of Michigan, one of the best institutions in the country. And it sure sounds, and again, I know it's a fiction, but yeah, what would you do? Let me ask a question. If you were the president of University of Michigan, to help students like Penny and Stella, and Millie and all the other students in your book that have struggled with these challenges, and yeah, what would you do to help in that space?
I think it for a school like that, there are 50,000 students. It's a huge, huge school. It's really hard to get kids the help that they need in a timely manner. That's, I think, the biggest issue. You can get help, but maybe it's not when you need it, or maybe it's too convoluted to try to get help. And that's one of the things that the girls deal with. When they do seek help, they don't necessarily get it when they need it. And I think it's largely just about resources. I think having more mental health care professionals, more lines available, more appointments, and it's obviously that's it's much easier said than done because I'm not the president of a 50,000 student campus, but I think dismantling any kind of access problems is the start, and doing it in a timely manner so that kids, when you're having a mental health issue, you need help then, right? It's timely. So I think that's quite important, is making not just access, but timely access.
Yeah, I forget which of your characters, if it was, I want to say Stella, maybe, that she
Yeah.
ran out of some medications, taken a whole bunch of them, then went to the campus and couldn't do anything for her, and then gave her a referral somewhere else, and
Yeah.
hey, yeah, 6 weeks, we'll be able
Exactly.
to see you. And yeah, there's just, I don't know, we won't get into that, but that's the nurse part of me, is like we do all the students such a disservice knowing when you leave your family, the odds of you having anxiety
Mhm.
just go through the roof, just being away and out on your own. And then we
Yeah,
don't do a good job providing all the resources. And I think it's just for education, at least for Los Rios, I'll just speak for them. Their job was to educate, and it wasn't to provide all these other services because the scope of it is so difficult, of having all those providers. And I'm sure University of Michigan's, no different. It's like, wait a second, now we're in this health business, aren't we in the education business? And there's just
exactly.
still a big problem in that space. And it was shocking of all the medications in your book that the
Yeah.
students turn to just one thing leads to another thing leads to another thing. And I know it was fiction, but obviously you saw a lot of that when you were on campus and where you got those thoughts.
Well, I think on any large kind of American campus like Michigan, this stuff is happening. And it was all very abstract and foreign to me when I got to Michigan. I grew up on the East Coast, so the idea of a big Greek life sports school was really just not something that I knew. That doesn't really exist in New York. So I got to Michigan, and these parties and the fraternities and the tailgates and the drugs and alcohol was just completely abstract. And I found it really surprising and alarming as well. Like, you're 18 and you've just left home for the first time. I don't think I'd like ever been in the Midwest until I got to Michigan. And so all of these things come together and it can be a really overwhelming experience. It's all very hyperbolized. Like, I lean into the absurdity. By the end of the book, the girls are taking drugs that don't exist, for example. Like, I've made up words just to show how absurd it's all getting. But I think it is rooted in the nature of going to university and getting kind of overwhelmed by your new reality.
Yeah, and I don't see that getting any easier,
Mm.
with everybody. And I know I forget who it was again. One of them taking a bunch of Adderall, and I don't know. I just feel like we're just not doing anything to help each other. The more we push everybody to be on their phone and have all these apps that you are dependent upon, I think everybody's ability to focus is just getting less and less. But that's what it takes to be able to perform, takes to become an author, takes to become a great PhD student, is the ability to focus.
Yeah.
And that's like that one of the big challenges that everybody has. It's turning to all these other substances, and you have any thoughts on that kind of dilemma?
Yeah, I think it's really a pressure thing. I think this starts the Adderall and the focus thing. I think it starts even earlier than college. I think it's a big issue. From the second you're like 14, you're thinking about where you're going to college. You want to get into the best college. And then you get into the college and it's a whole new academic environment. You have to adjust to studying in a way that you've never done before, while you're also adjusting to the new social life of your college. That's really intimidating. College is hard. Academics are hard, but you have to do well because your job depends on it. And so I think it's just this never-ending pressure that we put on young people. And I wouldn't fault anyone for turning to these things when you feel like it helps and when you feel like it's like a way out, a way to succeed in this sort of highly pressurized environment.
Yeah, let's change it up a little bit and get into the fraternity and sorority life that was a huge part of your book. And yeah, what are your thoughts on the good and the bad that come from being part of either one of those?
Yeah, I think one thing that I wanted to express in the book is that I don't think that sororities themselves are inherently bad or wrong. And I actually think that any kind of women-centric organization, especially for young women, can be really important and really helpful. And what I tried to illustrate is that it's in their dependence on the fraternities and that power dynamic within the system. That's where a lot of the issues arise. and the whole system is skewed in favor of the fraternities and the fraternity boys, which creates this culture of toxicity and misogyny and sort of casual sexism that is based on the gender dynamics. But themselves, the groups themselves, I think, can serve a really important role in young people's lives. For the girls in the book, they just happen to get wrapped up in a particularly toxic sorority that was involved in an especially terrible fraternity.
Yeah, no, I agree on the positivity side. Mike's daughter, the co-host of this show, went to LSU,
Okay.
kind of like you for the big, sports and the all the sorority and fraternity stuff. And I forget the name of her sorority, but I went out there and visited her, and they were focused on like community service, um, and she lived there for all 3 years. She was in the dorms her first year, and it was an incredible
Yeah.
experience for her. Totally 100% positive, not
Oh,
one bad thing. So I guess it just depends on kind of what you're seeking as far as what the fraternity or sorority kind of stands for.
definitely. And there's so many wonderful sorority and fraternity organizations that do service. A lot of them are centered around service. They're all supposed to be centered around service. A lot of them are studious. Like at Michigan, you have to have a certain GPA to stay in a sorority or fraternity. And they do study groups and tutoring between the younger students and the older students. And yeah, I think it can have really, really, really positive impacts, especially finding your social group, which can be so intimidating. It can give you that. This is more almost like a study in like the extremes and the worst case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I want to go back real quick
Yeah.
to have you share perhaps with the listeners, since you do have a lot going on and you do have to focus. And I imagine, when you're writing, to have your thoughts go elsewhere would be a little bit of a challenge. What tip would you give to a listener who just wants to work on their ability to focus? Like, how do you kind of block out and really zone in to do what you need to do to make your time productive in that space?
Yeah, it's truly so hard, especially with writing, both PhD writing and fiction writing. The impulse to like pick up your phone and check something that seems innocuous. I'm just checking a historical fact or looking up this author's name. That seems great. And then you lose 30 minutes to your phone. I have to physically put my phone elsewhere. That's how I fight the impulse. I also, especially for writing, I find if I'm really struggling with inspiration or just I can't focus, I'm getting lured into my phone or my laptop. Reading really helps. Reading is easier than writing, I think, because you're not actively creating, but you are getting inspiration. So when I'm really stuck, I'll read a really good book by an author in my genre.
Nice. Those are great tips. Um, Yeah, let's get in. Let's get in a little bit more to your book. Again, listeners, we're on with Heather Colley, who just released her book on the 21st of this month, The Gilded Butterfly Effect. So make sure you go out, and it's anywhere you can buy a book, go out and support her. I've read about half of it, and it's definitely interesting. And for an old guy like me, it was very eye-opening and took a lot of good information about kind of what goes on, even though you wrote it over these past 8 years, but it's still so applicable to everything that's going on now. But get into a little bit more about the book, and tell the listeners about why they need to go out and read it.
Yeah, the book exposes the underbelly of Greek life, the side of Greek life that you don't hear about, that you don't see, whether because that doesn't happen in every organization or whether because when it does happen, it's kept quiet. But it's through the Greek life system that really I'm exploring the mentalities of these two girls, Stella and Penny, who are kind of mirrors of one another. They deal with a lot of insecurities and issues that I think young women today face. I think one thing I try to do is show those issues earnestly and explicitly rather than through euphemism or metaphor, for example, because I think it's important to represent them true to reality. So I think it's important for women to read, or really anyone, for anyone to read these sorts of issues, and to know that other people experience them too, that they're there in fiction, that they're presented as reality.
Yeah, and you did an amazing job at that,
Thank you.
and definitely, yeah, I think the reader is going to take, since you didn't use any metaphors. I mean, yeah, you definitely did an amazing job of bringing the characters to life
Thank
and
you.
painting a picture of the struggles, challenges, triumphs, everything that they all experienced during their time in college. In any particular, obviously you're a female gender, but and you're studying, women. Is there any particular reason, you have your African American women novelists that you have researched? Is there any particular reason why you focus more so on women?
Yeah, I specifically focused on Toni Morrison for my master's research because that was what really got me interested in music in literature. I wrote about her brilliant novel Jazz, which I think is like one of the most beautiful novels ever. And that got me really interested in musical fiction. And a large part of musical fiction does have to do with African American literature because a lot of American music has to do with African American culture and African American history. So those are all kind of intertwined. But I think it's sort of the truism, like if you're a sociologist and you're like an older woman, you'll study older women. You know, if you are of a certain background or socioeconomic status, you'll study people of that same kind of milieu. So I think it's just an impulse that as a woman, I like to read about women's experiences. So I want to write about them as well. And it's what I know. And I think it's important for other women to be able to read about them too.
Yeah, no, I love it. And yeah, I was just and you answered it, gave me all that I was looking for. Like, yeah, yeah. Um, Taking someone like me who doesn't have much knowledge, is there a in this space, is there one book that yeah, all right, well, you need to start here if you want to gain some knowledge and some inspiration, and maybe of a book that would make sense even for like the pizza, because I love when you were talking. I'm gonna have to read um was the first one that Woodsworth.
Yes.
Definitely, I'm gonna have to get that. Just in hearing about the individuality, true to self, all that
Yes.
stuff. In my world right now, life comes true through pizza, and that might
Okay.
sound like so crazy to you, but I'm gonna tell you a little bit, and maybe this takes your mind somewhere of like, this is the book that Jeff needs to get. So I'm trying to find, and I find so much connection in this space of, individuality would be like the toppings. You can pick whatever you want to put on your pizza, and what do those toppings represent in your life? Are they your values, your morals, just things that you just happen to like? Is there something that your mom or dad um, put in your life that you don't even like the taste of and you want to get? I mean, there's so much that goes into that. The dough is always represents, just trust and like the foundation that you have. And you're like, well, who helped you with that foundation? How strong is it? What's it made out of? What do you do when you have a hole, which happens a lot when you're shaping dough? Do you
Right.
turn to people and ask for help? Do you toss that one out and say, hey, I'm just going to start again? Do you try and patch it up? I mean, so much of cool stuff is happening for me in learning about life through this pizza making process. But is there any book, after I'm rambling on here a little bit, that jumps out about, Jeff, hey, this would be kind of cool for you to read, that it might give you some insight into what you're doing now?
Yeah, I love that metaphor about pizza and the toppings and that they can come from anywhere. I think that's just a really nice image. I think uh I just finished Ainsley Hogarth's Mother Thing, which was a really big book a couple of years ago. I'm kind of late to it, but it similar to my book, it's literary fiction that centers women's issues, but it is like quite it's kind of a domestic horror as well.
Mm.
And it veers towards the end into like absurdity and humor too. And so it's just doing all kinds of amazing things. And it's about the narrator is a woman who's struggling with infertility, and simultaneously she either thinks she is or she is being haunted by the ghost of her dead mother-in-law. So it's like darkly fun, and also deals with a lot of women's issues and just extremely well written. So I just think that could be a very interesting one.
Mm. Yeah, thank you. Because that's not all the books that I read, and it kind of bothers me because I'm just still. I wish I would get out of that space, but I'm still into like self development,
Yeah.
leadership. Yeah, just kind of gaining insight into life, self
Mm,
care stuff. Because I want to be able to take some of that knowledge and apply it to the groups and people that I work with.
right.
But that is like hard reading. That's why I enjoyed, not that your book was easy by any means, but it was easy, and you could just
Yeah.
sit and digest it, and you can see the characters, and you can see them walking the campus and going into the parties and doing all this crazy stuff, and not have to take so many notes. And what is she trying to say? You did a great job of just bringing all the characters to life, and that
Thank
was
you.
refreshing for me to just be able to read something and just read it. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's really great to hear. I think there's a very fine line in literary fiction, especially between like making your point and getting your message across in an artful way without being overcomplicated and feeling like you need like a pen and paper out to annotate and interpret your book, which can take you out of the experience. But yeah, so that's really nice to hear.
yeah, yeah. Well, thank you for that, and yeah, congrats on everything that you're doing. What are you working on book two, or what's going on right now for you?
Well, I have a short story collection coming out in February 2026, which
Nice.
actually Stella, who's one of the main characters in this
Yeah.
book, narrates one of those stories. So
Oh,
if you like
cool.
her, she's coming back next year. Uh,
Nice.
and then I am starting book two and hoping to get that out into the world soon. But I also have to prioritize my dissertation. So
Yeah, you got a lot going on. And then is book two just going to be book two? It doesn't have anything to do with your first novel. And how do you navigate that of like, how do I want to continue? I know you just told me the short fiction kind of series coming with Stella, which obviously you're continuing her story. But yeah, how did you decide? Am I just going to write a whole nother book, or am I going to take some of these characters and continue on with this story?
yeah. After Stella's short story in the collection coming out next year, I think I'm gonna let these characters just breathe and sit. I am a big fan of ambiguous endings, and that's what I've done in the book. So I want to kind of leave that as it is and leave the ending open to interpretation so that whoever reads it can come to whatever conclusion that they want. And I sometimes think that direct sequels, can ruin that effect a little bit and sort of tell the reader what happens, whereas I appreciate imagining for myself.
Mm. Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Hey, I think we're in a good spot. I got one last question for you, and it's
Sure.
a quote from John Alston. And it's the only thing
Okay.
you take with you when you're gone is what you leave behind. So let's fast forward. Man, you've won all kind of literary awards. I don't even know how many books you have out there, but you have done an amazing, you've lived an incredible life, traveled all over the world, sharing your gift and bringing your words to life and inspiring women and men and others to really just read and share their stories. Um, but now you're getting ready to take your last breath, and
Yeah.
you're getting ready to go home wherever that is for you. What is it that you want the people that have been in your life, whether it be the readers or your fiance, who would at this point be your significant other for 50, 60, 70 years? What is it that you want people to know about you and what you stood for and what you leave behind with them?
Yeah, that's a beautiful quote. I would like, especially readers, to think that I am representing difficult human experiences in an honest and straightforward way, in a way that I think is not often represented in fiction or even movies or TV or music. But I hope that through that approach, people see themselves in my work and feel connected, whether to the fictional characters or to the writer or to other readers. And I hope that people in some way feel less alone by relating to my characters.
Mm, powerful, powerful. And that's going to happen. We just put it out there.
Hope
Uh,
so.
yeah, it's going to happen. Again, listeners, heathercolleyauthor.com. Uh, Go out, check out her book. That's helped support her. Again, coming from London, England. I will ask one last thing, then we're going to wrap it up. So obviously you're getting feedback, and I know your book's out there all over the place. What's one kind of review that you've seen that you're like, yes, that made me feel so good, and that you're carrying with you for a little bit?
I saw this review on Instagram actually. It was a creator that makes memes out of books that she reads, and she read the book and she made all of these memes basically criticizing the main fraternity brother in the book named Trip.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all these funny memes about how he's a terrible kind of beastly person. And after I saw that, I just thought she really got it. And I just thought, you know what, that reader, she just really appreciated it exactly as I intended. So that was really fun.
Awesome. Awesome. Again, Heather Colley, The Gilded Butterfly Effect. It's out since October 21st. Go check it out and go to her website, heathercolleyauthor.com, and it's Colley is her last name.com. All right, listeners. Boom, baby. That just happened. We out.